Football today is dominated by the Premiership and the Champions League, though there are many other divisions up and down the country, from the Aberdeen Angus Athletic League to the Tin Miners South West Invitation Division. But when did all this football begin? Where and how? Many people mistakenly believe it originated in this country, with such teams as Notts Forest County, who were actually formed in 1644, some 200 years before their first competitive match, which in fact resulted in an 8-all draw with a soon-to-be disbanded Manchester Friday. This Manchester-based outfit went through numerous name changes, including several days of the week, 2 Grand National winners, and a planet of the solar system. But despite this checkered history, they still survive today as none other than the famous Stockport County. Football, though, did actually begin life in ancient Rome, the earliest records of which were revealed following the discovery of the Rosetta Stone in medieval France. This first recorded match, unrecognisable from the game today, consisted of a team of Roman road builders against a collection of local slaves. We understand there were no actual goals at this time, the object of the game being to manoeuvre the ball into the shade of a particular tree. This led to the saying, "put in the shade," effectively getting one up on your opponent, and is still in use today. The ball or stone was actually made of a form of pumice that could possibly have weighed as much as 4 kilos, which led to many injuries, even death. The first person to try and head the ball died instantly, and from his foolishness originated the word headstone, and today is still synonymous with graves and the dead. The next leap forward was the introduction of goals, an area between 2 trees instead of the shadows. This came about following the eruption of Mount Etna, which not only destroyed Pompey's training ground, but threw up a massive dust cloud which blocked out the sun for many years. Despite this, the game flourished in southern Europe, but back in Britain it was largely passed over, with pig sticking, archery and marbles the chosen leisure activities, though a number of legends did arise, the most famous of which was a series of football-like contests played out in Sherwood's Forest between a certain Robert of Foxley's team and a black-hearted band of landowners led by an Alan Rickman lookalike, the Marshal of Nottingham. Robert's team, all dressed in Lincoln green, prepared for the contest by eating biscuits, while their black-hearted opponents were rumoured to have feasted on donkey glands to improve their performance. But this suitably failed, with Robert's team running out 4-1 winners, and then, as a gesture of goodwill, shared their winnings with the local community. No proof exists of this event, but the legend still exists today. The main development of the game in this country did not come about until the early 18th century, when a certain Marquis of Kingsbury decided to create a set of rules, after watching a team of pig farmers defeat a Morris dancing team 23-0. During this one-sided encounter, a number of serious injuries and sexual assaults were inflicted upon the hapless Morris team, and the Marquis was so appalled by these actions, he immediately drafted a set of rules, as he said at the time, to civilise the sport. Thus, the birth of the modern game was born. He introduced referees, whose duties not only included awarding free kicks, but also to carry out physical punishment of serious offenders, and even more bizarrely, to take all penalty kicks. This led to a certain Mr. Polly being the leading goal scorer in 7 of his 10 seasons working as an official. The offside rule courted controversy from its inception, and has also been cited in many domestic arguments, so I shall refrain from commenting on this any further. The next major change in the game came about following the introduction of the Corn Laws, named after Mr. Victor Corn, chairman of the PFA, who introduced the 11-a-side rule at the 1844 AGM. This rule still exists today, despite a handicapping system, varying the number of players per side according to ability, which controversially was trialled unsuccessfully during the 1923-24 season. But controversy has always followed the game, none more so than the famous White Horse FA Cup final of 1934, the first played at Wembley, when a large white police horse used for crowd control wandered onto the pitch and scored the winning goal. Blackpool defeating Bolton 2-1. Football now encompasses the globe, with Africa now emerging as a major player. Football kicked off here in the late 18th century, this mainly due to a much delayed meeting between the minor league sides, England's Accrington Stanley and Scotland's Livingston, who presumably met somewhere near the source of the Nile. And the rest, as they say, is history. What of the future? Unfortunately today, due to the money now involved in the game, the humble fan's importance has been usurped by the corporate takeover, the proof of which is clearly shown when a team like Manchester United make more money a season from the sale of prawn sandwiches than they do from the takings at the turnstiles. And this added to the fact that a single Manchester City player earns more than the Prime Minister, the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the Greek national debt combined. Someone once said, there are people on the pitch, they think it's all over. It is now. Thank you.